Somebody said a young guy on TikTok. Where'd I go? Oh, here we go. I'm gonna push this up. You'll see this. A young guy on TikTok using gematria somehow matched Rod Hayes to Lucifer. Said that's a good thing. Well, if that means a lot.
Hey, look. So the Lucifer effect, right? The Lucifer effect. Don't nobody know what it is, but it's written in all of the occult mysteries. The
Okay.
Lucifer effect is the ability to be able to read the creation from above and from below simultaneously. That's all it is. It ain't nothing else. Take
Mm.
all that spookism, mysteryism, all that out of it. That means that you just got the ability to see clearly from the spiritual into the physical and vice versa.
Okay.
It's called mirror flipping. As above, so below. What's written in the stars manifest on the ground if you know how to read them. But if you don't
Hmm.
know how to read them, it's gibberish and nonsense.
Right. But okay, so back to you for anybody that's just tuned in. So you were talking about the birth, your birth, remembering this last birth, because you know that there you and you also talked about seeing other remembering other incarnations and
Yes,
seeing when do you see future births at
I'm barred from seeing the future, so I don't change it,
okay okay
right?
so
Because
all you
I
see is
change, I change it to anytime I.
ah where'd he go y'all
Oh,
okay
somebody just called me, Dr. G. I have
oh,
to go out and come back in.
y'all stop calling him he's online. So
Can you hear me clear?
I hear you yeah.
Okay.
So so you said you would change it if oh I get why you
I
would.
would always change it for the collective to have the most functional future possible. If I could see the future, I
Yeah.
automatically switch the timeline. But then that would be what you call averting the work required to change it correctly, which will cause a wrinkle in time that can't be compensated for.
Well, since we know that like timelines are not not so much as like chronological, but maybe multi-dimensional, or these other lives maybe other dimensional lives, just like you talked about, the Mandela effect, or these other lives that you remember, might you be living them out, at the same time? May they be? Are we talking about lives that have literally passed and gone and not connected anymore to what you're doing? Oops, you froze. Can you hear me? I tell you, we talking good and they messing us up. You know what this is? You come in. You know what this is, y'all? Because the knowledge that's being shared is to take away the spookism, is taking away the spookism and the fear that even this kind of stuff, they don't want it to get out because they want to keep us in fear. They don't want us to be in knowing. They don't want us to be able to, go boldly into whatever battles we need to go to, knowing that, we are spirit and, we are souls that live forever. They want you to have that same mentality that we've been indoctrinated with in Christianity. Can you hear me, Rod? I'm just trying to fill
I
in the
can hear you. Can you
space.
hear me?
Yes, you froze, but go ahead. I'm sorry. I apologize. Go. Just trying to keep it going.
Yeah. So, one of my past lives being born, I remember in antebellum New Orleans being born, and the room was only lit with candles. The whole room was a whole bunch of candles. That was it. And it had a chandelier, so I know they had lighting. But the chandelier wasn't on, but it was candles all around the room. And it was a elderly, dark skinned lady and a younger, bright Creole woman that was the doula and the birth maiden. Because you always have to have one with you in training so the knowledge can be shared most effectively by osmosis. This is why we used to use apprenticeships over job training. Because when you do an apprenticeship, you get the hands-on experience from some of the best teachers possible, the experts on the job.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do hands-on training, they just teach you the steps, but they don't teach you how to compensate for little intricacies that come up as problems on the job where you don't have to call a whole army of people to fix it. Right? Following that principle in the streets today, like if you go to LA and you tell them that you a Crip, blood, they're gonna say, well, where you put your work in, who your witnesses. That means that all of the chiefs always have a witness to.
All
Can
right.
you hear me now?
I don't know why. You said. I guess this is too powerful.
Well,
So
so
you're
at this
saying
point,
you go to LA about the Crips and that's where you
yeah.
went, right?
So they always ask you who a witness to your work in order to solidify what your status is on the land. That's different from the mainstream cultural norm. So the culture that we use is somebody always have to be a witness that you about what you say you about, that you're gonna do what you say you're gonna do the way you said you was gonna do it. So
Mm-hmm.
they say they call that a witness to your work. Every step of the way, I'm one of the most scrutinized people when I look back on the history, because I done been under review since I was. Look, when my mama used to go to all these different churches and tents and trailer parks and basements, when I remember being an iron baby, and she passed me around to all these old ladies. They be old as hell. Some of them dip snuff, and they be saying, oh yeah, Shady, it's the one right here. I don't know what they talking about, but I can still remember they chatter.
Mm-hmm.
You
So
know,
you like you've been under evaluation since you came out the door out the gate.
right? And it wasn't until in the last 3 years of doing this work I realized that I couldn't even be here if somebody didn't conjure me up. I have to be conjured up to come into the physical world by a group of people. One tribe cannot conjure me up. All of the tribes have to agree, because they don't know how I'm gonna behave when they conjure me up. And so they have to put me through cycles of training to temper my temperament so that I can have enough self-control to be useful. Otherwise, I'd be useless to the collective, and I'd be useful to some tyrants, right?
So
But
when you decided to do what you were doing to take it on like you have with your whole heart and soul into this, it was it back in 2008 when you came, or because I personally I just discovered you this year. Think
no,
video dropped up and it was this year and I was like, who is this man? And I said, he's a record keeper. Remember when I first, and so I tried to contact you, or I wanted to contact you, and then I said I'm gonna interview him one day, and then you saw Grand Chic and I doing a live in the park, and you reached out, and then I didn't believe it was you, but I'm just saying, I'm like, where'd he come from? But you didn't just start doing this, obviously. But
no.
when did folks start noticing you, that from your perspective, the way you're noticed now?
Over the last 3 years, mostly. But there were certain people in certain places who knew where I've been and what I've been doing since birth.
Okay.
Been getting reports every step of the way. When I make mistakes, I don't let other people pay for my mistakes. That was a rare quality, but none of them believed that I was ready because they didn't realize.
Larry Hoover, he said, it's like a battle cry. It's not just while there is importance about. Okay, let me let him tell you, Brother Rod. There's a question and I'm just going, even though we're talking about you, but can you explain this for those who've never heard you explain? Why is it so important to free Larry Hoover, respectively? Why is he a big part of things? Can you explain? Please explain.
Yeah, I don't have no problem with that. And it's not just Larry Hoover.
That's what I was getting ready to say. It's That's a battle cry, a rallying cry for a
Right.
lot of
So when we got the 7.4 earthquake in New Mexico, they asking me in a series of exchanges of what we call knocks to knockbacks. The Galactic Council asked me for my leader because of the work that they seen me doing. They want to know who it is that I'm up under, who is the leader of the clan that I'm in, because I made all of the successful moves to reclaim our inheritance from the enemies. So when they ask me who I follow, who is my leader, I have to give them my clan leader. I can't give them no politicians because they're not our real leaders. I can't give them none of those corporate big hats because they're not our real leaders either. I
mm,
can't give them a celebrity. I have to give them somebody that's from the land organically, who walked the same path as me before me, who may not be who people want him to be, but he is who he is to us as a people. The same way the free Larry Hoover, it also equally applies to Assata Shakur, the one formerly known as H. Rap Brown, Malachi Z. York, Chief Malik Angel Bay, formerly known as Jeff Ford, Black Peace Stone Nation, Stan Tukey Williams, who we believed was put to death but was actually put in cryostasis at Area 51. The only person that I would accept that wasn't one of us, that was one of us, that was seen in the public uh, on a regular basis was Farrakhan. Because when I did the science to trace back who the matriarch was, I ended up with Mother Khadijah. Using the rules of the land applied on the things that's operating on the land, I have to find the highest ranked matriarch in order to know how to restore our people. If we can't find her, then we don't know how to read the signs effectively enough to know the difference between the imposters on the land and our own people. Well, I clearly seen who she was. Farrakhan has the evidence and the verification proof, and he already presented it, and it's already been verified that all of the stuff that I said was accurate. So when they asked me for my leader, the only person I can give them, being that ever since I was, all of my cousins in my age group that I grew up with from in Chicago, I didn't live in these three cities is Grand Rapids, Michigan, Chicago, Illinois, one spot and learn the culture. The culture is all across the land, but you have to be exposed for a period of time to be able to assimilate this piece. Also, in before I went to prison, I lived in Mississippi. I lived in Memphis, Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee. I lived in Seaford, Delaware. I lived in Newark, New Jersey, New York, right? I had to traverse the land, and a lot of these trips from these places was by bus, Greyhound.
mm,
So here I am riding a Greyhound across the land and surveying the land, right? And so these, to me, these are translatable signs that other people that's listening that know how to read signs can translate, right?
mm,
And so when they ask why is Larry Hoover relevant to our struggle, is because he was taken from us, a leader that we picked on the land ourselves. The government didn't pick Larry Hoover for the people. The people picked Larry Hoover, and the government rejected him and rebelled against the choice of the people. The same with Chief Malik Angel Bay, right? And it's a whole list of leaders in our communities that was being picked by the people, that was ruthlessly hunted down by a government operation called COINTELPRO. right? COINTELPRO is short for Counterintelligence Program, and the goal was to stop anybody, one of us with the capability, which everybody I named was capable, but it's one problem. You can't be a bond servant and redeem the land. You can't be in prison and call yourself the chief because you're under somebody else's subjugation. That means you are in a foreign jurisdiction. You can't give orders if you're in a foreign jurisdiction on your own land. That means you've been conquered. So me being the next in line saying, hey, if we gonna do what's right, we gonna unilaterally do what's right. Or I don't want to do it. I don't want to do half of what's right or a piece of what's right. I want to do the whole thing, change the whole thing to correctness, or I don't want anything to do with it. Right? So it's not just Free Larry Hoover. That's just the condensation of all our complaints. The adrenochrome harvesting, the women trafficking, the sex trafficking, the children, the kidnapping the children, the selling us in the open market using our birth certificates, trading bonds. All this has to stop in order for us to ever see true prosperity and a new golden age on earth. And because my give a fuck meter don't move, for lack of a better way of putting it, I don't care enough about the enemy's well-being to not take them off our land. Whereas some people become so familiar in associations with the enemy that they don't care to remove them from the land, from taking food out of our babies' mouths. You don't have to agree with me. I'm still gonna fight for you. Because the universal laws say you got a right to believe whatever you want. You got a right to think whatever you want. Be you right or wrong, that's your right. I can't take that from you. That's inalienable. Because if you didn't have the right to think what you want to think, then your thoughts wouldn't be enclosed in your own self-head. They would be on public display at all times for the random person to come through and change them. But that's not the case. So you got a right to believe what you want to believe. You don't have to agree with me. I'm just going to tell the truth until everybody understands from frequency and vibration and verification of receipts. So don't believe me, check the receipt. Argue with the receipt, don't argue with me. That's my philosophy. The receipt's on the record. Been building up for 3 years.
Yeah. Well, and in the fullness of time or at the right time, that's when I came across you. I wasn't supposed to, I'm assuming, until now. And so it's a good thing. Have you ever, you mentioned the Galactic Federation. I received a call from a sister, and I was supposed to be reaching out to you. I'm sorry. I apologize, rather, to the sister who was a part. Have you ever heard of the Committee of 300?
Yeah.
So she
Committee of 300.
Yeah. So it's sort of it's I believe from what I got, it is sort of galactic in its origin, and she is a part of it. And so she watches. I know she might have seen it, might be on here. I'm not sure, but when she first reached out to me, it was like the committee is trying to figure out who you are, and she kind of wanted to have a conversation with you. But I was wondering if you were familiar with that.
Oh.
She was selected to be part of the Committee 300.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah,
first and foremost, because I had some of the most prominent Moors, when they seen me surface 2-3 years ago, came to me and told me, let's see what you got. Let's see what you can do. Right? And I didn't know them, and they all grand sheets, several of them across the land. But I didn't know they knew who I was or had heard of me until they contacted me.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And have they been silent ever since? Have they been in the forefront?
That's the rule. Matter of fact, one of them called me. He said, "Brother, I'm not even supposed to be talking to you, but I know who you are, and after all this long wait, I had to see you and talk to you for myself."
Mm,
So he knew who I was even better at that particular point in time than I did.
mm.
But I was more from the standpoint of I can solve the problem, but the people don't really want the problem solved. They'd rather go along to get along. So I don't want to participate under those conditions.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, I know you're going to fix it, but before you do what you're going to do, before the world see who you is and see you do what you're going to do, he said, I had to call you personally. He said, I've been waiting a long time to finally get to talk to you. So he knew who I was,
Hmm.
right? And I know for a fact that all of these Masonic lodges know who I am. I got too many messages that's
See that? Depending on what you get ready to say, then they break you up. um, where were we? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, you were talking about her.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's the speed because you're on your phone, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes the speed and all this being on all this long, the speed is a factor, so it slows you down. Plus, I'm pretty sure that they throw in some monkey wrenches in there because they don't
Yeah,
want
because I sure was saying that the Masonic lodges know who I am.
right.
And they didn't made it clear that they knew that I was here and that I was coming to clean this shit up. And they've told other people who've in turn come back and asked me, is it true?
Really.
Yeah. And those are card carrying Masonic brothers of good standing in the lodge with a good reputation among the brothers of the lodge and the people in the community who've been in the community being active workers in the community. So I know they know what they're talking about because other than listening to my videos, and I don't be talking a whole lot of Masonic stuff, but I'm they dread.
Okay.
All of the ones that corrupted the lodges, because the lodges used to be rites of passage programs for the princes to learn how to rule and govern the people on the land, and it were all used and weaponized against us by some slimy, dirty, underhand players from the back rooms. As Farrakhan say, a few of you in a few smoke-filled rooms making decisions while the mainstream of the masses, poor, black, white, red, yellow, and brown, are suffering in this nation. Them the ones who know who I am that don't want me to be here. But it ain't
Mhm.
nothing they could do about it because I'm protected by forces beyond their reach. So I don't care. I walk down the street like a regular person because to me, I'm just a regular person. Not until somebody asks me the questions about the redemption of the community and the information come out that they find out this ain't no regular motherfucker right here. There's something strange and different about him because he know what's going on and he's doing something about it. And he don't care what we think. That's the problem. I don't care what the people who's in that verse think for one reason. They don't know what I know. And
True.
if they don't know what I know, and I say, okay, well, since you think I'm wrong, I'm going to quit, then we ain't going to never get nowhere. Right? So I'm going to keep telling the truth. I'm going to keep pointing at these dirty, dirty players until they all get drug out in the open. But we already at end game now. See, Big Mama gave me a mission that as soon as I got done with the mission Big Mama gave me, you called me. That's not a coincidence. That is a coordinated attack from the spirit for us to
Hmm.
do this and to tell the people to update across the land. Big Mama
Absolutely.
sent me on a mission.
That's right. And
My mission was successful because I told her I didn't give a fuck what she needed me to do. If it's going to fix the problem, if it's digging dog shit with my bare hands to get to the solution, I'm going to be a digging dog shit scooping ass because it's fundamentally wrong and repugnant to who I am to see the people suffering from people being selfish, greedy, naive, and senseless. And if I got good senses, then that take me out of the category of the senseless. And if I ain't naive no more because I see what's going on, that take me out of the category of the naive, which tells me I'm not poor and defenseless, right? Which tells me that I can say something out in the open that contribute to us recovering from this condition that we've been in that's adverse to us as a people. In the Jubilee year, at the close of the age, after the contract been closed a minimum of 3 years, the people shall receive their redemption rights in the public domain. So this becomes a public notice by default from Big Mama saying that she want all her daughters to get their shit. Cause she sent her baby boy in there to get it, and he left no stone unturned. And so now, whoever they is, whatever lodge they hide in, whatever secret society they under the covers of, whatever back room they dealing in, ain't nowhere to run and ain't nowhere to hide. Cause Big Mama sending them boys, mama's boys, the real ones, to come get your ass, cause we know who all of the dirty players is, because we had enough time to study their moves. It's just chess. Checkmate, motherfuckers. That's how we say it. Big Mama say checkmate. It's over. I'm not gonna leave no stone unturned. Where they all flipped over, ain't none left in the creek. They all on the bank now. So since
Yes.
they all on the bank, we might as well break the bank and bring it on home. So I don't want nothing until all the man got all of theirs. And once they all paid, run man. So I had to go through the process of the refining of the information, the clarification of the misunderstandings, the showing of the misdirections from the David Copperfield show, which your earrings made of copper, to realize that it was just an illusion. And the three sisters talked to the seven sisters, which is a moon flip to a Pleiadian knot, in order to resolve the matter of the Pleiadian light lock that was secured by an Arcturian agreement at the Galactic Council. That we can't get under this shit unless one of us, organics to the earth, figure the solution to the problem by understanding all of the areas of people activity and how to effectuate change. One of us. We don't all have to do it, just one of us. But part of the problem is the one that discovers it now has to be on a Paul Revere ride across the nation. Instead of saying the British is coming, the organics is coming back. They coming back home to serve eviction notice on all of the squatters on the land. That's a knock to Dane Calloway, by the way. Because my cousin, Big Ray, and Ray is the name that they give chiefs. They name him Ray, and they name him Son. And the one that they call Big Papa is called the Big Son because his son is always named after him, and he the little son, or when they call him by his name, whatever his father name is, he the little that.
Mm-hmm.
So you got John, which is Uncle Johnny, and his son is Little John, right? So when we know how to read the language, my cousin flipped to me that the life is a game and he who dies with the most toys win. All you got to do is slow down. You already ain't scared to look in a book to find the solution. Follow that pattern and repeat until you get to the victory lane. My mama said the race don't always go to the swift. Sometimes it go to the slow. So watch the tortoise and the hare. So she flipped me because I always say I'm slow as a turtle. So it's a turtle nation knot off of a gorilla's back. You can't help it. They got to return everything they fucking took. All we got to do is get the message out to our people that it's over as soon as they do what I was forced to do during this beginning of this stuff. Divorce yourself from the fallen system that you get drugged down with it. Most people can't do that from fear. But Big Mama told me, fret not thyself for evil doers. For yea, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Well, I told her, well, not only will I not fear no evil, I will destroy all evil that oppose my ability to impose righteousness across the land. So bring it on if you want to play. I'm a ghetto boys. Make my day. Right? So when we get to the real root of what's going on, I couldn't always tell people what I knew because I needed a way to tell it to them on their own level where they can digest the information and use it to their greatest advantage. The greatest advantage is this process that we are under right now because the sisters started separating themselves from the system July the 4th, and when a sufficient number of them separate, it's over whether the men do it or not because we're going back to matriarchal rules, the children first, family first, and the rest of that shit can take a back seat to hell. We don't want it if it's not benefiting the collective.
I think it's interesting that the movie that's coming out, I don't know whether it's coming out is it before the summer's over or in the fall with the Warrior Queens or whatever. I think it's very interesting. With
Actually,
Viola Davis.
I haven't seen that movie, Dr. G.
The trailer, well, it's not out. It's not out, but the trailer is like, it makes you like, yes, you know. It to me is it even puts Black Panther on the back burner because it's like queens. Well, they call them queens, but you know we know what queen means. But it's melanated sisters fighting and destroying, doing exactly. I think it's a metaphor for what needs to happen in the spiritual realm.
Not only is it a metaphor, it's rooted in historical facts.
Right.
Here's a historical fact. When the men couldn't get the job done on the battlefield, the women got the job done. And so just so that people can have a reference to what I'm talking about, research Anne Zinga.
Queen Zinga, yeah.
Research Queen Makita and research the Candace Queens. When they said Alexander conquered the world, when he ran into the Candace Queens, he made a sharp left turn and went into the Indus Valley. He didn't want no parts of that. Right? When the Anzinha brother, the general of the military, kept getting his ass handed to him by the Dutch and the Portuguese, she gave him a final warning before a battle. She said, if you lose this battle, don't come home. I'm going to take over the army and I'm going to show you how victory is won on the battlefield. And he went to go fight the Portuguese and the Dutch. They handed his ass to him. The scout came back that she sent to follow him and said they getting their ass handed to him. As they was in retreat from the battlefield, she passed them on the battlefield going to the fight. She was kicking their ass so bad they wanted to negotiate. But they wanted to humiliate her by making a woman stand up. She got gorillas for bodyguards. We don't play that. You're not going to disrespect this sister. I be her seat. She can sit on me because you ain't going to look down on her in my presence. Right? So the man becomes a proper support, even in a secondary position. You still got to be the proper support for the sisters. And when we can't get the job done, we have to recognize Big Mama got a group of girls that she sent in at the end as the final cleanup crew, and they tear this motherfucker up with the laws of nature. They not finna go fight you with their fists. These are the final. You don't want this part to happen, but you will know if it do, because it's gonna be the most beautiful storms you ever seen, tearing shit up, coast to coast, 360 around the globe. Right? It's a hurricane, but it's pink lavender with lace swirl around it. Who's seen that shit before?
This how that's why they call it what? A hurricane.
But we in the ancient days we used to call it the most beautiful destructions. Because it'll be a hailstorm, what they call gorilla hailstorm with fist size hail balls falling, and it might be lightning in purple, green, and lavender tints of electrical bolt in the middle of the storm, and it looks so sweet you don't want to go in, but them hail balls get to hitting you, you can't stay out there, right? But you want to see it, but you know it ain't safe.
Right, right,
That's how
right.
you know when the final wave finally hit, when Big Mama finally turned her big girls loose.
And I want to say this to you, brother Rod. Whatever you want to finish, try to get it in right now before they block you, and then I'll do they bringing you up. So whatever you were saying, look, go on with it.
Okay, so this is where we at the end game. We really, really, really past the end game now. Um, so what we need to be looking for is a sudden dump of information. This gonna come all at once because it's been held back and it's been seeping out in little clips. So that's like a leak before a dam break. That little sprout of water in the cartoon before it ruptured the whole dam. Hey, you can't stick your finger in there and plug this one up, right?
Right.
So the exposure, um, based off of the messages I'm getting, is it's imminent. But I can't give a date because I'm not allowed to see the future dates. I can only read the real time, and then I can do a mathematical probability. I can also do what they call a stellar alignment probability according to the alignment of the stars. But for those who want more information, you can ask the oracle readers, the card readers, and the psychics, because at the time now, the energy level is so high that the accuracy levels is higher than they ever been in modern history. They haven't been this accurate since they was hijacked by the Romans in Greece in as oracle priests of Delphi. Right? They were accurate like they are now back then. And when the Romans took over Greece, the accuracy diminished until now it's returning. So you can ask oracles to do card reads on these current events and what do they indicate, and they're gonna all give you a general time frame to work from based off the movement of the energy. Some of them gonna be so latched on to the energy, it's gonna be like binge watching your favorite TV show. They gonna keep coming back every day doing spreads on the same energy because they'll see the changes that fast in the oracle read. A lot of times when I tell people that don't understand what I'm saying, I say refer to the oracles and ask them if my information is correct, because what you can't see with the spiritual eye, you looking physically, they can see spiritually what I'm telling you, and then they can tell you physically what it's going to mean because they're catching the energy as it's changing in real time, and they're using the focal point of whatever their oracle style is. Some tea readers, some read runes, some read cards, some read entrails, some read nuts, some read shells, but they all got their own way of interpreting those energy signatures that's coming in from spirit, right?
Yes, and I'm kind of running while you're speaking. I'm running about four different readers on the information about four different ones I know do reading. So you might want to reach
Mm.
out. But there are folks that are on YouTube that are doing daily. You
Yeah.
know,
So my some of my favorite tarot readers is Blue Rose Tarot has uncanny accuracy. Also, I listen to Brittany Madison, who has an uncanny accuracy. She's actually done spreads on the because and she did some other reads too. I asked her to do a couple of other reads and she done them. Um, then you also, it's a sister on here who's looking at the organic side of it, the tribal side, named Chief Janace. she's pretty intuitive, and she's coming from more of an academic angle from her intuition, and she's sharing information. There's a couple more of them. I don't have them all off the top of my head like that because I'm horrible with names, as hard as I might be to. But those are just some of the ones that that I listen to who has uncannily accurate information, and I can also use the information to go into more detail.
Yeah. Well,
Right. So I can listen to a tarot spread and refine the reading by adding more definitions to more parts of the cards than the reader is actually doing.
mm,
My
wow. Yeah, so you
audience
got
to
that
see.
background. You got that background. Listen, we are 2 hours and 39 minutes into this wonderful show. Not even want to call it show, broadcast, information broadcast update. And again, I just I'm open, honest, transparent. Planned another planned another show for this evening, and then we had to postpone it for another time. And at short notice, reached out to you, Brother Rod, who, as you said, you had just finished completed an assignment that Big Mama had sent you on, and you were like, "This is perfect, perfect." I think you were thinking about update, and I called you about update, but then I was led to ask you, "Let's talk about you." You know what I mean? Let's talk about what you
Yeah,
know.
because a lot of people don't know the struggles that go with doing this work.
Right?
Like, I'm doing fast sometimes 30, 40 days, 50 days in a row.
Fast? Did you say fast?
I'm fasting
Fasting. Okay, that's what I thought you said. Okay.
fast. Some of them be 3 days. You hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah. Some of them be 3 day fast, 7 day fast here, a 20 day fast, a 30 day fast. The longest one was about 50 days. And if you go back and look at my videos, you can see how skinny I was.
I remember seeing one with actually, I think the picture that I used on here, you look real skinny. Your face was real thin. The picture I used for that you a lot slimmer, a lot
Right,
more slender. Yeah.
right. So I
But
went, my physical condition is about 260 to 268. I had got all the way down to 180 something pounds. So I lost almost 100 pounds doing fasts alone. That don't got nothing to do with the meditations, the shadow work, facing the demons, and that's generational curse breaking. That stuff not easy. It sound easy, but most of us don't understand that we actually breaking generational curses by changing certain behavioral patterns that we picked up from our parents.
mm-hmm. Wow. And yeah, and it's a lot of things you got to face, and then you have to all of the. It's almost like Prometheus. It's almost like, well, whichever
I
one it is.
always
One.
tell people,
You're breaking up.
can you hear me, Dr. G?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a lot of work went into this. A lot of years of studying went into this. My library is ridiculous. I got like probably 20 totes packed up with books, and I'm not done packing.
Wow. And how much time did you actually end up doing of that 18 to 50-year sentence?
About 16 years and 8 months.
Okay. So you did some time. So you had time to get your PhD.
A couple of them, because My favorite. Okay, so you have what you call your what you naturally drawn to is medicine. That's me. Me and my cousin Calvin were supposed to be doctors together. He went to university to become a medical doctor. I went to the underworld to become a witch doctor. We still became doctors. We just different kind of doctors.
Okay.
But I became a witch doctor to hold up our agreement that we both be doctors. This one of the things that entails is becoming a naturopathic physician by studying naturopathic medicine.
Right.
Right. Now I don't have what they call the degree paperwork. So what I have to do is find one of us on the land from where I'm from to send the people to that got the paperwork. And that's Dr. Pittman here in Pontiac from Herbalife. You can find him on my YouTube page. If you put in Herbalife, you can't miss it. That's what it is. And it's in Pontiac, so you'll know it's the right one. But I refer people to him because he got the paperwork and he know the information that I know about health and maybe even more. I'm inclined to believe that he's more versed in what he called Ayurvedic medicine, which is a naturopathic medical training. Every doctor from India goes through it with their Western medicine teachings. So if you get a
Yes.
doctor from India and they want to write you a prescription, always ask them what's the organic um, treatment for this. This that's a naturopathic remedy. They'll have to give it to you because as a doctor, if you ask for an alternative to treatment that's effective and they're aware of it, they obligated under their Hippocratic oath to give you the information. So the last physician that I was attending was from India, and I used to ask him all of the information to get all of the. I used to be in there um, quizzing his interns and asking them medical information. And one of my favorite things to ask them is the most fascinating thing they learned about the human body. Because for me, the most fascinating things was you don't just have a heartbeat, you got a brain beat. Your brain beat like your heart. That was so amazing to me. So when I started doing my fetal studies, fetal development studies, it made sense because the same stem cells that form the heart is also pulsing, forms the brain. The central nervous system is formed in a straight line, and from that, the heart and the brain both come from different parts of it.
Right. The
And
spine being the covenant governing vessel where it
yeah,
starts to form on. Yeah.
and your third brain is your intestines. And if you learn to control your appetite, you can control your base desires for anything.
Yep.
Increases your willpower overall. That's why we train fasting so hard because we actually are at an internal war to take control of our willpower from our ego self that the society created. It's a power struggle. W.E.B. Du Bois called it the warring soul and souls of black folks, right? And he described it as the Europeanized white self is in conflict with your organic black self, right? And
Wow.
you are in a dilemma at all times on which side, which one of these selves of yours do you take sides with? Soon as he told me that, I said, I want the organic side out the gate. I don't want the other side. They can keep it.
I know that's right. I know
I,
that's right.
right. The society created that by other people's opinions of me. That don't match my opinion to me, so I don't accept that.
Hmm.
Right. So they told my mama I wasn't gonna never learn nothing. They told my mama that I was gonna be incorrigible and that I'm always gonna be slow and behind everybody else academically. But they didn't know is I was just biding my time so I could jump in another lane, burn rubber, and leave their ass in the dust. Because the same people that told my mama that when they was my age didn't know half the shit I know.
Right. So here's something else probably people did not know about you, that you had such a a background in a holistic and herbal medicinal formulations and just the knowledge of what is and what isn't going on a holistic basis. But you and I have spoken before, and you have shared that with me. For me personally, I the same thing you have with the doctor that you mentioned, Dr. Botanica, who I also advertised, on the channel. He and I, brother Dave, but now more Dr. Botanica and I work together because I do the AO scans, and when those reports come up and show all of this stuff is going on, not now he can read. I can read them, but he can read them from his medical, holistic, and medical practice, and he does use a lot of Oriental medicines. He understands and understands and understands. So we work together. So once I do the scan, then he gets the reports, and then he can give them protocols and so forth. And I've seen so much. I mean, my cat was listless for like y'all have seen. Some of y'all have seen me pick my cat up sometime and put him, let him be seen. Well, 4 days ago he became ill and listless, and he hadn't eaten for 3 days. And I was getting ready to take him to the emergency place where they wanted like 350 notes to walk in the door, just to walk in the door, not to do anything to him. And finally realized, scanned him, and all kinds of things were going on with him. And even the chakras were out of whack. I mean, of the cat, and showing, and they have some extra different chakras that we don't. They have something called a bud, which is on each one of their feet, that chakra. But anyway,
we have them too. Under our foot, the sole of our feet has a chakra on each foot. The palm of our hands have a chakra in each chakra.
So, and what they call them on the cat or the dog is the bud chakra. And so it showed all of that. And I think 7 out of 9 or 6 out of 9 chakras of his were out of whack. And his blood count, this, that, a lot of things were going. He was listless. I had to call him a couple of times to see if he was still breathing, and sent it to Dr. Botanica, and he's reading this, these things, and he's seeing nutritional issues and various things. And then bling, it hits me. What would have made him become sick like that quick? We had put Turo ant killer in a little container and around, because ants had invaded the kitchen, and we had them around the island. But one of them got kicked and the liquid came out. So intuitively, I knew cat must have licked that, thinking it was right, and he was poisoned. I sent him, scans and did some different things, ordered some things on Amazon. It came in 4 hours, force fed him, did some stuff, and couldn't find the card that I was going to take him to the emergency room and send him scan frequencies. And this morning scanned him again. All of his stuff had changed. All his numbers, everything changed. Everything that was, all of his chakras are in balance except for his heart. Heart chakra still keeps, and it probably is always out of balance because he's kind of like that. But today he got up and ate after 4 days, and he kind of came back to himself. But it wasn't until I realized what had happened to him. And so, and I also sent his scans to Dr. B, so he could look at them and he could see that something was going on. But we have determined that he has a mineral deficiency, like a lot of us do. So, but I'm just saying that type of approach to stuff. And, when you know that stuff, you can be such helpful to yourself, to your family, and to your friends. You don't make yourself a victim to allopathic pharmaceutical, drugs that are going to have all kinds of side effects and all kinds of, side effects. So I'm happy for the natural approach. And then you told me something today about the importance of magnesium.
Yeah, because you can't use any of the trace minerals required for bodily functions without magnesium. It's the great synthesizer. And the same with vitamin C for all of the vitamins. It's the great synthesizer. And one of the old books I read went into the medical studies on nutrition and the different vitamins and how they affect certain conditions. And you would be surprised with what they call macro dosing, massive doses of vitamin C cure so much stuff, but they don't want people to know about it. Because it's a facilitator for all of the rest of the vitamins. And magnesium is the facilitator for the trace minerals and
Have you ever
especially the
heard
trace
about
metals.
glutathione?
Yeah.
And it's yeah. See, I put glutathione in my mouth and in nano. These are like down to a nanoparticle because when it gets into your gut, everything can get burned out, but it works in the mouth. So because I swish it in my mouth for 30 seconds to a minute, it absorbs in nanoparticles in the jaw and gets through the body that way and bypasses the stomach acids. And but these are things that we don't study. We rather have somebody else give us all of these poison things, and we
Yeah.
need to do more. Yeah, but I'm glad that we see all of these phases of Rod,
Hey,
all of these things.
you remember when you had me talk to him? What the first thing he asked me about?
Dr. B,
Mm-hmm.
and you, whatever it was, I knew you knew. I realized you knew.
It was
And you were
about the PQQ.
PQ. I'm on PS. Me on PQQ. Yeah.
Right. So the PQQ is for the mitochondrial. It's the fuel for mitochondrial in the physical world. But most of the mitochondrial, when it's operating in its optimum function, it's spiritual. It's the spirit energy that charges and powers the cell at its micro levels.
Mm-hmm.
So when he asked me about it and I started telling him that it was the fuel for mitochondrial, he said, "Man, you know how many naturopaths I asked about that don't know what that is? You know what it is?"
Yeah, you
Right.
did. Yeah, you did. I didn't remember which thing it was, but I knew whatever it was, you knew it right off the bat. And so, but yeah, so I just try to do the things that are natural and to keep myself, going. I'm sitting here, I'm sweating. I'm sure it's like 90 degrees still here. We've been on here for just about 3 hours. Listen, we have an event coming up. I wish, I know you can't, but I wish you could be here. But we have an event coming up in August, and we are hoping that all that can, because last year we did 2 of these things called Up Close and Personal, and this year we're only going to do one, but it's a whole weekend, 3 days. So we're hoping that we can get at least 85 to a max about 100 folks to come out and hang out with Grand Sheik and myself and others, and who knows.
That'd be a great pleasure if I'm able to make it, but I don't know what Big Mama gonna have me doing next.
You will
So
ask Big Mama, because we will bring you here. I won't even announce it. It will be a secret. If you do show up, it will be. I wouldn't even put it on the.
It would be on short notice anyway, because right now I can't make plans that far in advance until I can read what's going on. I have to know where I need to be at.
But now that I know that you were close here because you've been to Seaford, that's what I call it Lower Delaware. But you know what I'm talking about. If you've
I used to work for Townsend Chicken.
I was going to say, was it chicken? Ronald, you
down there in Seaford, ain't really much to do but work in the
Tyson
chicken factory
and stuff like that. What came to mind is like, did he work in a chicken factory down there? But,
yeah, it had me deboning breasts.
I've heard stories. People were like, "Oh, they grow the chickens and they don't have all their body parts. They have chickens being born." They put stories out like that.
They do have genetically modified chickens that don't have beaks and feathers, but that's not what's being delivered from Townsend Chicken, the one that I was working at. I watched the whole process from them bringing them in on trucks to the factories. You drive down through Delaware, you can see all of the pole barns. They call them chicken farms.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see them in there. Those chickens, they grew too many in the close proximity, but they not necessarily genetically modified like the ones they use in fast food. Them the ones with no feathers and no beaks.
Yeah, see, right? That's deep. That's not so.
Yeah. So like you could go on YouTube and put in clipping chicken beaks, and you'll see them clipping their beaks off when they babies. It ain't no secret.
Wow.
Well, KFC don't call itself blatantly call itself Kentucky Fried Chicken no more. They just call itself KFC. It's a lawsuit I read when I was locked up. Somebody said sued them and said that they shouldn't be legally allowed to call they genetically modified organisms chicken, and the courts agreed with them and told them that they couldn't call themselves Kentucky Fried Chicken no more. So they changed the moniker to KFC.
Wow. Well, that's deep, y'all. If you're still eating that stuff, that's deep. Wow. Well, well, well. Listen, this has been absolutely a wonderful exchange, and I'm sure aside from oops, the interruptions with the the sound and the picture kind of sticking. This has been good. This has been good, and I mean, I think we have a totally different perspective. Now we can look at you, the man behind the mission, behind the activism. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of times people think that they don't know. You know, when you're attacking people and you don't know who they are, you don't know where they've been, you don't know what it took for them to get to and do what it is they're doing, and then you're doing a great disservice. And sometimes folk attack people that could become one of their biggest allies, but you need to figure out who they are. And like same thing with you and Grand Sheik. You all don't 100% agree with each other on anything, but the one thing I like that both of you say, we agree on the things we agree on. We find commonality in the things that we do agree on, and that's where we ought to be, I believe. As a people, find our common ground and let's stand on that together instead of fighting each other from different sides of the road.
Right. Well, I knew I had to learn civics from a reliable source. In the different people that was teaching, I didn't find a better source of civics understanding than Taj. It don't matter what else he teach after that. I know civics from listening to Taj.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is the purpose of knowing civics? You need to know what's being done, what you need to be doing to run government, how to read the law so you'll know the imposters is using legalese to trap our people. We didn't know all this stuff 100 years ago this concisely. When Noble Ali said get a good Moorish education, he didn't only mean civics. He meant historically, linguistically, learn the etymology of the words that they're using, and it's going to paint a different picture, right? So if he said he going to lead these people in power till we learn how to run the government, somebody has to sit and learn government from A to Z. One of my frustrations, and this don't have nothing to do with, it's not a negative knock on Taj, is that he's forced by the questions he's asked to keep saying the same thing redundantly. The irony in that is, by him saying it redundantly, I don't have to be there at the beginning. I can come in where he at and see him saying the same things over and over and say, okay, well, they're not asking the follow-up to get him out of this loop, right? So in our reading Emerald Tablets, Stoff say everything is cycles within cycles. Learn how to interrupt the cycles. That means learn how to break that pattern of redundancy. The only way I can do that is I have to ask Taj questions that none of the prior persons that was doing their investigations in the civics have been asking him. The only question I needed to ask him is, did he know when the contract ended? Because if he don't know when the contract ended, he don't know when to stop teaching physics, so he can't never retire. He can't never go off into the sunset with his wife and have babies and all that stuff because he got to keep teaching this stuff redundantly. I want him to have the opportunity, if he chooses to take a 40-day vacation because he felt like it. Because I understand civics enough to know that as pretender to the throne, having the birthright and the blood right, there's a process. By application of this process, I enact universal law. In enacting universal law, it secures the position of all similarly situated people around the world because this is universal law. that's enforced from the level of the Galactic Council. It trickles down into the 3D as an overthrow of the current system that's belligerent to the organic people on the land who has an obligation to Big Mama, Mother Nature, to clean the land up at the close of the age, to restore the waters and the airwaves back to its pristine purity. And that's not going to take no week. That's not a 2-week cleanup
No,
job. We talking about a job that can
no,
take us a couple hundred years, but we have to start on it. But we can't start on it until one of us learns civics well enough so that we can execute the galactic law overriding the corporate jurisdictions of contract law.
right.
And from the position of galactic law, when you discover an injustice, you report it to the people to determine if they want to remain in the injustice or if they want the justice to prevail over the injustice. So this is why we always have to put it in the public domain, and the paperwork becomes irrelevant. This oral tradition preceding the paperwork tradition. And Noble Drew Ali say, "No, for a surety, you are what your forefathers were without a doubt or contradiction." Elijah Muhammad say, "Go back to what your forefathers done." We was an oral tradition, so that means putting it in the public domain is how we made our presence felt among the people. Then when we
Mm,
discover any anomaly that negatively affects every clan, then we have the obligation to inform as many clans who's willing to listen to the problem that comes with a solution. The solution that I'm telling the people right now is that we have to destroy this old system so that our system can be restored. When our system of matriarchy is restored, cleaning off parts of the land to take care of and reclaim. If the land got to be cleansed, we got to have purity rituals held on the land from the blood spilling and the bloodletting rituals they done all over the land. All of these murders and slaughters that they've done over the years have a negative residual energy that affects us. All of the people don't have to be aware, but the ones who understand it is obligated to explain it to the ones nearest to them in terms they can understand of what's taking place on the land. So my job by default became the person that's running through the communities telling all of the tribes similarly situated, which happens to be all 500 in North America and some change, and they all have to agree to overthrow the old system, and then the old system goes away. So the question you asked me earlier about Malachi, he's in continuity of government. He has to be there because he has one of the largest tribes on the land, right? Farrakhan has to be there. They can't not be there. If the government is going to revert back to us, our leadership has to be there, which includes those political prisoners that we mentioned earlier, all have to be there. And this is all taking place in real time. It's just that the people are stuck on this narrative of the old system, trying to hold on to its last few sips of power. So now they cup is empty. I'm about to slap that motherfucker off the table because I want my sisters to get their shit back. Mama said, don't let nobody take nothing from my brothers and sisters. And they got first right to the rights to the earth. So if we gonna fix the problem, you put it everything where it properly go, it'll run the way it's supposed to run, and you don't got to micromanage everything.
right.
You ain't got to worry about it. Just put the most qualified person to lead the position in the current conditions. I might not be qualified to lead this charge in 10 years because my qualifications might have exhausted themselves by doing certain work. But somebody else gonna come along behind me and say, this is how we take what you was doing to the next level, right? So
Right.
we taking it to the next level, and the highest level we can take it is to the grand matriarch in order to restore balance to the land. And we all know who
And
that
I
is
like
because I
what
done
you
told
said. I like what you're saying, Rob, because you're not saying that you are the end, the be all, and the end all. But for this season, you are doing the work that you've been assigned. For me, for this
you.
season,
Yeah.
I'm doing the work that I'm assigned. And just like you said about Grand Sheik, we get to a place where we need to be able to get to a place where, as we become elders, that we can relax from that, because there are a younger a crew coming in that should be preparing themselves to take a leadership role and to let the elders be revered and let the younger then to me do the heavy lifting. I'm hoping that somebody will come and take over. I do so much when it comes to the House of Reawakening Minds from the standpoint of the day to day is me. It's the calls, it's the creating the this, it's the can do it. I mean, Grand Sheik and I basically work together, but he does what he does when he comes here and talks, and he does work if work needs to be done in the building. But when it comes to the mechanics of things, this is no huge organization, but it's a huge responsibility to a very broad spectrum of people. So it has to be done with some level of professionalism and precision. Even though we have these technical things, these are things that we gotta get beyond. But we take seriously the work. We take seriously the fact that we've been put in this position for this time to be a connector. Knowing that somebody else is going to come along and pick up the baton at some point, and they need, and it needs to be a smooth transition. That's what we need to be doing, preparing those to come up and take the baton.
So when people will be asking me, how can I not promote myself as higher based on my knowledge? I learned from Chancellor Williams that he gonna always be a greater teacher than me because he taught me. So the greater I become, the greater that make him. I taught from Taj, right? So the greater I become in the application of civics is a testimony of the greatness of Taj. I
Absolutely.
can't never overshadow them. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants who stood on the shoulders of giants. I'm just a midget that can see the furthest. That's how I see it. So
Yeah.
all of them that did the work before me laid the foundation for my work to be able to be functional and usable. Because I'm not usable if I don't have something to use. And anything that don't have something to use and that's not usable is open to be misused. And that's why they don't like to conjure me up.
Mm. Well, I'm glad they did. I'm glad they did. We're glad they did. Many of us are. Like I said, love you or hate you, it doesn't matter. You came here to do a job, and you're doing it. And whether whether have folks, whether you smoke a cigarette or whatever else you smoke, whatever, or you curse or say words that are whatever they feel like it might be cuss. You're not cursing. Cuss words. That's your mannerism.
And that's part of rebellion.
Okay.
Because like I said, being politically correct and the politics are not correct is being insane. So to use the profanity, to be cussing, is to be belligerent to the improper politics being imposed on our people. So any politician that I don't hear say motherfucker it, I ain't trying to hear it. He can't be politically correct and be about what's right. It's incompatible in this system. Because the politics is not correct. Because there's too many people suffering and struggling trying to get a better day from a sour lemon that they don't have enough sugar to make lemonade with.
See, ain't nobody focus on the bullshit that they told us. Always trying to pin you sick when ain't nobody came before us. We the best part of waking up before the Folgers. That's why they want your backs against the wall like a poster. Indoctrination being sold as education. Most of history they taught you came from some imagination. Roots was never true, fuck the whole compilation. Fuck Walter Plecker, fuck Alex Haley. America is Egypt, Israel Queen Khalifa. Babylon used to dabble by NY, check my fever. Niggas think I'm lying cause they sleeping. But bitch, I ain't no fool shopping my tools every season. I said paper on paper on paper. Ain't no genocide, we was killed on paper. Buried us alive in the proudest of the paper. They know what who we are, swear they hate us.